Roberts has said "I do" to Cody John. The actress married longtime partner Cody in a romantic.
Okay, the internet wasn't supposed to find out about Emma Roberts' wedding this way. There was no glamorous countdown, no weeks of leaked plans, no paparazzi camped outside a luxury venue. Gend. For a brief moment, the entire ceremony belonged only to the people who were actually there. Then the first photos appeared. At first, fans celebrated exactly what you'd expect. A beautiful wedding, an intimate ceremony in Idaho, and Emma Roberts beginning a new chapter with Cody John. By Nant. But less than an hour later, the conversation took a completely different turn. Millions of people stopped talking about the wedding itself and became obsessed with one unexpected detail. Manja. Some called it one of the most elegant celebrity bridal looks in years. Others couldn't believe Emma had ignored almost every modern Hollywood wedding trend, and that wasn't the only surprise. Gemdia's exclusive interviews, behind-the-scenes details, and newly released photos continued surfacing. It became clear that the internet had misunderstood the story from the very beginning. The dress wasn't simply a fashion choice, the location wasn't random, even the timing of the announcement had a purpose. Piece by piece, a very different picture started to emerge, one that revealed why Emma Roberts and Cody John worked so hard to keep this wedding private until after they were already married. Bond. So what really happened behind the scenes? Why did one bridal look divide the internet? And why did a quiet wedding in Idaho become one of Hollywood's biggest entertainment stories of the week? The answers begin long before the first photo ever reached social media. Minjas. On the morning of 12 July, almost nobody outside Emma Roberts and Cody John's inner circle knew they were about to get married. Bond. That's unusual in Hollywood today. Celebrity weddings are often uncovered weeks before they happen. A venue gets leaked. Guests are photographed at the airport. Vendors accidentally reveal details. By the time the ceremony begins, fans usually know almost everything. This time, none of that happened. Emma and Cody quietly arrived in Sun Valley, Idaho, surrounded by close friends and family, determined to keep the day about the people in attendance, not the cameras waiting outside. And for a while their plan worked. The ceremony took place without becoming breaking news. There were no helicopters overhead, no viral videos from guests, no photographers broadcasting every moment across the internet. The public didn't witness the wedding. They discovered it afterward. That single difference completely changed how the story unfolded. Instead of watching events happen in real time, fans had to piece everything together through verified reports, official photographs, and interviews released over the following days. Each update answered one question while creating another. Why Idaho? Who attended? How did they keep such a major event secret? Then the first official images finally appeared. Mountain backdrop immediately stood out. Rather than choosing a luxury ballroom or an oceanfront estate, the couple exchanged vows surrounded by Idaho's natural landscape. It was elegant, but surprisingly understated, a setting that reflected privacy instead of spectacle. As more photographs were released, another detail caught everyone's attention. The guest list. People expected dozens of famous faces. Instead, the celebration remained remarkably intimate. Among those attending was Julia Roberts, Emma's aunt, whose appearance quickly became one of the most shared moments from the wedding. But despite her Hollywood status, the focus of the day never shifted away from the couple. Family came first, celebrity came second. Another touching moment also emerged from verified coverage. Emma's son, Rhodes, played a meaningful role in the celebration, reminding fans that this wasn't simply the union of two actors. It was the coming together of a family beginning a new chapter. By now, the internet had plenty to talk about. A secret ceremony, a mountain wedding, a close-knit guest list, a rare public appearance from Julia Roberts. On most celebrity weddings, those details alone would have dominated headlines. But this story was different. Within hours, almost every major entertainment outlet and countless fans online stopped focusing on the ceremony itself. Bond. Instead, attention shifted to one photograph. Not because something had gone wrong, because one creative decision instantly divided opinion. Lawn. Some viewers described it as timeless. Others said it broke almost every expectation they had for a Hollywood bride. Bonds. That single image became the reason millions of people clicked, commented, and kept searching for more. And once Emma herself explained the inspiration behind it, the entire conversation took another unexpected turn. The image spread across the internet in minutes, not because it captured a dramatic moment. Mandia, not because of an unexpected celebrity guest. It was a simple wedding portrait, but almost immediately, people began zooming in. Bendy, entertainment pages reposted it. Fashion accounts analyzed it frame by frame. Fans compared it with photos from other recent celebrity weddings, trying to understand why Emma Roberts' bridal look felt so different. Chumanja. The answer wasn't obvious at first. Mdia. Most celebrity brides follow a familiar formula: bright white gowns, bold silhouettes, and styling designed to make an instant statement. Emma went in a completely different direction. Bonda. Instead of chasing the latest bridal trend, she chose a custom Monique Lhuillier gown inspired by vintage romance. Delicate French lace, soft, and classic craftsmanship gave the dress an old Hollywood elegance that looked more timeless than trendy. And that single decision changed the entire online conversation. Some fashion writers called it one of the most distinctive celebrity bridal looks of the year because it wasn't trying to compete with every wedding that came before it. Others admitted they were surprised, not because the gown wasn't beautiful. Ambazy, because it challenged what many people expected a Hollywood bride to wear. The reactions quickly split into two camps. One group praised Emma for creating something deeply personal instead of predictable. Another said they still preferred the classic bright white bridal style that has defined celebrity weddings for decades. Interestingly, both sides agreed on one thing. The gown had everyone talking. Then another piece of the story surfaced. In a behind-the-scenes interview, Emma explained that this wasn't a spontaneous fashion decision made weeks before the ceremony. The vision had been developing for months. She shared that she's long been drawn to vintage photography, classic films, and antique fashion. When she imagined her wedding day, she wasn't picturing a modern runway look. She wanted something that felt romantic. Something that could have existed decades ago and still feel beautiful today. That perspective changed the way many people looked at the photographs, the softer tones, the handcrafted lace, the understated styling. None of it was accidental. Every element reflected a personal vision rather than a public expectation. But perhaps the most interesting part wasn't the dress itself, though. It was how closely Emma worked with Monique Lhuillier's team, to refine every detail before the final design was completed. Mendy. According to Vogue's exclusive coverage, the process involved multiple fittings and thoughtful adjustments, with the goal of creating a gown that felt uniquely hers, instead of simply following current bridal fashion. And once that story became public, the conversation started to shift. People were no longer asking, why would she wear that? They started asking something much more interesting. What inspired her to make that choice? And the answer wasn't found in fashion magazines. It was found in the life Emma Roberts had quietly built away from Hollywood headlines, a story that made every decision surrounding the wedding feel far more personal than anyone first realized. By now, millions of people had seen the dress, but almost nobody knew what happened before those photos were taken. Long before guests arrived in Sun Valley, Emma Roberts had made one decision that quietly shaped the entire wedding. She didn't want the day to feel like a Hollywood production. According to interviews released after the ceremony, she wanted guests to experience the wedding, not spend the weekend watching cameras, posting online, or wondering which celebrity might arrive next. That philosophy influenced nearly everything. The ceremony remained intentionally small. Instead of hundreds of guests, the couple invited a close circle of family and longtime friends. Every seat had a purpose. Every person there had been part of their journey long before wedding headlines ever existed. But one guest, however, naturally caught the public's attention: Julia Roberts. Fans. The Oscar-winning actress could have easily become the biggest headline of the day, simply by attending. But that's not what happened. When the first photographs appeared, Julia wasn't standing at the center of attention. She wasn't making a dramatic entrance or posing for publicity. She was there for the same reason everyone else waits: to celebrate a family milestone. Brand. That small detail changed how many people viewed the wedding. Manja. Instead of looking like another celebrity event filled with famous faces, it felt like a genuine family celebration that just happened to include one of Hollywood's most recognizable names. Belanda. Then another emotional detail emerged: Emma's son, Rhodes. Bonda. While headlines initially focused on fashion and celebrity guests, reports later revealed that Rhodes played a meaningful role during the ceremony. Head ceremony. For Emma, that moment carried far more emotional weight than any magazine cover or viral social media post. It transformed the wedding from a celebrity headline into something much more personal. And that's when another interesting detail surfaced. Men guests described the atmosphere in a way that almost every headline had overlooked. There was no pressure to perform. No endless schedule packed with extravagant surprises. People spent time talking, laughing, and enjoying the mountain setting together. Instead of rushing from one photo opportunity to the next, the weekend unfolded at a slower pace, allowing it to simply be present. Bungie. That may sound like a small difference. In Hollywood, it's actually a rare one. Bamdia mini celebrity weddings are remembered because of a single extravagant moment. A multi-million-dollar venue, an unforgettable performance, or an over-the-top reception. Emma and Cody's celebration became memorable for almost the opposite reason. It felt surprisingly normal. And perhaps that's exactly why the photographs resonated with so many people. They didn't look overly staged. They looked lived in: natural smiles, quiet conversations, family embracing after the ceremony. And those candid moments gave fans a glimpse of something that celebrity coverage doesn't always capture: real life. As more official photos continued appearing, another pattern became impossible to ignore. Every image seemed connected by the same idea. Nothing was trying too hard to impress. The flowers complemented the landscape instead of competing with it. The decor enhanced the setting rather than dominating it. Even the fashion reflected restraint instead of excess. That consistency wasn't accidental. It reflected months of planning built around one simple goal. Not creating the most extravagant wedding of the year, creating one that genuinely felt like theirs. And just when the public thought it finally understood the wedding, another wave of reactions began, changing the conversation, once again not from guests inside the ceremony, but from millions of people watching from around the world. By the end of the week, something unusual had happened. Emma Roberts' wedding was no longer just a celebrity headline. It had become one of the most discussed entertainment stories online. But not because of a scandal. Because every outlet seemed to focus on a different part of the wedding. MD1 magazine highlighted the custom Monique Lhuillier gown. Another focused on the intimate Idaho ceremony. Others covered Julia Roberts' appearance, the mountain setting, or the emotional family moments that slowly emerged through official photos and interviews. There wasn't one headline, there were dozens. And together, they created a much bigger story than anyone expected. That's when social media took the conversation in another direction. Banda fans began comparing Emma's wedding with other recent celebrity weddings. Not to decide which one was better, to understand why this one felt so different. Some pointed to the absence of endless pre-wedding publicity. Others noticed there weren't dozens of professionally staged teaser photos released weeks in advance. Instead, the public experienced the wedding almost like detectives, Each day brought another verified detail, a new photograph, a fresh interview, another behind-the-scenes story. Bond. That slow release kept people coming back because every update expanded the picture instead of repeating the same information. OB. Then, fashion editors noticed something else. Emma's bridal style wasn't designed around what was trending this season. It reflected a broader return to classic silhouettes and timeless craftsmanship, that has recently become more visible in luxury bridal fashion. That observation shifted the discussion beyond Emma herself. Could celebrity weddings be moving away from dramatic social media first moments and back toward more personal celebrations? No one could answer that question with certainty, but the discussion itself showed why this wedding continued making headlines. It wasn't simply about what Emma wore, it became part of a larger conversation about changing expectations. At the same time, entertainment reporters revisited something many fans had overlooked at the beginning. The wedding wasn't built around one spectacular moment. There wasn't a surprise performance. There wasn't an extravagant reveal. Instead, the impact came from dozens of smaller decisions that all pointed in the same direction. A quiet venue, AMDA carefully chosen guest list, a vintage-inspired aesthetic, a celebration that prioritized the experience over the publicity. Balance. When those pieces were viewed together, the wedding started making much more sense. Even people who didn't personally prefer the bridal style admitted they respected how consistent the couple had been with their vision. But there was one question that still hadn't been fully answered. Why were Emma Roberts and Cody John so determined to protect their privacy from the very beginning? The answer wasn't hidden in the wedding photos. It was hidden in the way they had handled their entire relationship, years before they ever walked down the aisle. And once that timeline came into focus, many of their biggest wedding decisions no longer seemed surprising at all. By the time Emma Roberts walked down the aisle, the biggest decisions had already been made long before anyone saw a wedding photo. So, the ceremony lasted one day. The planning behind it stretched across years. Emma and Cody John were first linked in 2022, but unlike many celebrity couples, they never turned their relationship into a running public storyline. There were no constant relationship updates, no weekly headlines, and no pressure to prove anything online. That wasn't by accident, it became the foundation for everything that followed. When they got engaged, many entertainment reporters expected the usual celebrity rollout: a designer dress preview, venue rumors, exclusive interviews, and months of social media excitement. Instead, nothing happened. Weeks turned into months. The silence only made people more curious. Looking back now, that quiet period explains why the wedding announcement landed with such force. While the public was waiting for clues, the couple was making decisions completely out of view. One of the biggest was choosing Sun Valley, Idaho. At first, fans wondered why they had skipped destinations like Malibu, Beverly Hills, or Italy, places that regularly host celebrity weddings. But once more details emerged, the decision became easier to understand. Sun Valley offered something Hollywood couldn't: space, privacy, and the freedom to celebrate without turning every moment into tomorrow's headline. That same thinking appeared throughout the entire weekend. Instead of creating a schedule packed with headline-worthy surprises, the couple focused on experiences their guests would actually remember. Conversations instead of cameras, family instead of fanfare, moments instead of marketing. Another behind-the-scenes detail also stood out. Emma reportedly worked closely with her creative team for months, refining everything from the ceremony's visual style to the smallest design elements. Nothing appeared rushed or chosen simply because it was fashionable. Each decision answered the same question: does this feel like us? Ondas. If the answer was no, it didn't make it into the wedding. That philosophy may sound simple, but in Hollywood, it's surprisingly uncommon. In Bangdia mini celebrity weddings are remembered for one spectacular feature, a record-breaking venue, an A-list performance, or an extravagant budget. Gen D, Emma and Cody seems to be chasing something completely different. They wanted guests to remember how the day felt, and not how expensive it looked. Ironically, that decision created the very thing they weren't chasing. Attention. MDN as more verified interviews, magazine features, and official photos were released, the public realized the wedding wasn't memorable because of one dramatic moment. Blonde. It was memorable because every piece fit together, the location supported the atmosphere. The guest list reflected the couple's priorities, the dress matched Emma's personality. Nothing felt disconnected. By this point, even many people who weren't following celebrity weddings had started paying attention. Momja not because they suddenly cared about bridal fashion, but because the story had become about something larger. Mond. It was about whether authenticity could still stand out in an industry built around spectacle. And that question leads directly to the final chapter of this story. Because once all the headlines settled, one unexpected takeaway remained, and it may explain why. People are still talking about this wedding long after the last guest went home. And a few weeks after the wedding, the headlines began to slow down. That's normal. Fonda. Celebrity weddings usually dominate entertainment news for a day or two before the spotlight moves on. But this one lingered. Baned. Not because new scandals appeared, not because unexpected drama unfolded. Lond. People kept talking because the story meant different things to different audiences. Gened for fashion lovers, it became a conversation about timeless design. Emma's custom Monique Lulia gown showed that a bridal look does have to follow every current trend to capture attention. Its vintage-inspired lace, soft, and understated styling reminded many people that classic craftsmanship can be just as memorable as bold fashion statements. The wedding became an example of something increasingly rare in celebrity culture, a major life event. That remained largely under the couple's control until they were ready to share it. Mangia. Instead of watching rumors build for months, the public learned about the celebration through official photographs, interviews, and carefully released details that gave the story a different rhythm. Rather than one massive news cycle, it unfolded gradually, with each verified update adding another piece to the picture. Fanja. For longtime fans of Emma Roberts, the wedding represented something even more personal. Mained over the years, they've watched her grow from a young television actress into someone balancing a successful career, motherhood, and a long-term relationship outside the constant spotlight. To many supporters, this wedding wasn't simply the end of an engagement. Mond. It felt like the beginning of a new chapter. Even industry observers noticed the difference. Bun. Many recent celebrity weddings had been remembered for extraordinary venues, elaborate performances, or viral social media moments. Bend Emma and Cody's celebration earned attention for almost the opposite reason. Millions. There wasn't one spectacular stunt that overshadowed everything else. The strongest impression came from how consistent every decision felt. Bond, the private mountain setting, the intimate guest list, the meaningful role of family, the thoughtful design choices. Chand. Each element supported the same vision. Instead of competing for attention. Momd, Lookton. Maud, looking back, it's easier to understand why the internet reacted the way it did. Bondi. The viral conversation may have started with one photograph, bland, but it continued because people discovered there was much more behind that image than they first realized. The dress wasn't chosen to dominate headlines, the venue wasn't selected for publicity, The privacy wasn't a marketing strategy. Mbanja. Together, those decisions reflected a couple creating a wedding around their own priorities rather than public expectations. You know, and perhaps that's the biggest reason this story stood out. Mendy in an era when nearly every celebrity milestone unfolds in real time. Across social media, Emma Roberts and Cody John reminded people that some moments don't need to be live streamed to leave a lasting impression. Munt. Sometimes, the stories people remember most are the ones that reveal themselves slowly, one honest detail at a time. Bleens. That is what transformed a quiet ceremony in Idaho into one of Hollywood's most talked about weddings of the year. Okay? When people look back on celebrity weddings in the future, they probably won't remember every designer gown or every luxury venue. Pyongyest. They'll remember the weddings that felt different. Dandy Emma Roberts and Cody John's celebration became one of those rare moments. Not because it was the biggest, Jand. Not because it was the most expensive, because it stayed true to the couple from beginning to end. The story began with a secret ceremony in the mountains of Idaho. Then came the first photographs. Longs. The internet noticed the dress. Fashion experts analyzed the design. Entertainment outlets reported new behind-the-scenes details. Ben fans shared their own opinions with every new update. One thing became clearer. Beamed. ND. The wedding wasn't successful because of a single viral moment. It worked because every decision supported the same vision. AMS. Privacy wasn't treated as a publicity strategy. Family wasn't included for headlines. The location wasn't chosen to impress Hollywood. Fanned. Each choice reflected what mattered most to Emma and Cody, not what would generate the biggest reaction online. Ironically, that's exactly what captured people's attention. In a time when celebrity milestones are often revealed through carefully planned social media campaigns, this wedding unfolded differently. The public discovered it piece by piece. Official photographs, exclusive interviews, verified reports. Bond. Each new detail added context instead of replacing the last one, allowing the story to grow naturally rather than disappear after one news cycle. Chi? Mond. Perhaps that's the biggest lesson from this wedding. Leaned. Sometimes, the strongest public image isn't created by revealing everything at once. Mon. It's created by making genuine decisions first and letting the story speak for itself afterward. Benda. Whether you loved Emma's vintage-inspired gown or preferred a more traditional Hollywood bridal style, Peds. People are still talking about this wedding because it gave them something real to discuss. Not controversy, not scandal. Man, just a celebration that reflected the personalities of the two people at its center. And in today's entertainment world, that may be the most unexpected headline of all. Binda. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of Hollywood's most talked about weddings, let us know in the comments. Oh, what do you think was the biggest reason this wedding resonated with so many people? The timeless bridal look, the private Idaho ceremony, or the couple's decision to put family before publicity? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more celebrity news, behind-the-scenes stories, and Hollywood updates. In the end, Emma Roberts and Cody John didn't set out to create one of the year's biggest entertainment stories. They simply planned the wedding they wanted. A quiet ceremony. The people who mattered most. Being a setting that reflected their lives instead of Hollywood expectations. Bond. Yet those very choices sparked conversations that reached millions around the world. Bongans. Some people will remember the custom Monique Lullier gown. Others will remember the breathtaking Idaho mountains. Ments. Many will remember how successfully the couple kept such a major milestone private until they were ready to share it. Shined. But perhaps the most lasting part of this story isn't the dress, the venue, or even the headlines. all. It's the reminder that in a world where almost every celebrity moment is broadcast instantly, choosing authenticity over attention can still make the biggest impact. Jand. Sometimes, the moments that feel the most personal become the ones people remember the longest. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this documentary, leave a comment below and tell us what stood out to you most about Emma and Cody's wedding. You know, and if you love celebrity stories that go beyond the headlines, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive. Dumbia. We'll see you in the next one.